Hello, good day everyone, and welcome to Lesson 7, Media and Globalization. So today, our group will be discussing about the relationship between globalization and media in this contemporary world. To be more specific, here are our learning objectives. First, we will analyze how various media drive different forms of global integration. Second, we are to compare the social impacts of different media and the processes of globalization. Third, we are to explain the dynamics between local and global cultural production. And lastly, we are to define responsible media consumption. So are you now getting excited? Well, we hope that everyone is interested enough to stick with us till the end. So let's move forward. Globalization. Well, just a short recap. We have previously learned that globalization is the increasing pace of the interconnectedness across the globe, and it must be viewed in various lenses. People around the world feel closer and closer despite of the distance. You know why? It's because of globalization, in the sense that it entails the spread of various cultures. For example, when we watch Hollywood films, we get to see how Americans behave, eat, or the way they dress. We learn that they are liberated and preferred denim clothes. Another example is when we watch animes. We get to learn that Japanese people like to eat ramen, they wear kimonos, and they bow as a sign of respect. Another facet of globalization is that it also involves the spread of ideas. Like for example, the rights of the LGBTQA++ community. It's no longer an extreme taboo topic since this idea is becoming widely accepted in today's society. So we can say that we don't have to necessarily travel to Korea, Japan, or America just so we can learn their culture, because globalization makes it happen. But another question is, how? How was it made possible? One word answer: media. The television where we watch Hollywood films, the books, the SOCMED, and the internet. These are all forms of media. And this media is used as a channel that helps in spreading the culture and ideas. Thus we can say that media is the main conduit of the globalization.
Let us now move on to the media and its function. On this topic, simple and understandable definition will be provided. I know that some of you may still be confused to what media exactly means, so pay attention as we are going to discover the simplified definition of it. What is media? First, according to Jack Lull, he defined media as a means of conveying something, such as a channel of communication. Second, according to commentators, they define media as technologies of mass communication. Lastly, the singular form of media is medium. So, a media or medium is a communication channel that aims to convey or transmit messages to a large audience. The television serves as one example of media. News reporters utilize television as a tool to reach a large audience with the current news. It is an essential and effective channel for information dissemination. So, that's the meaning of media. Let's now take a look at the three categories of media. The categories includes the print media, broadcast media, and the digital media. Under print media has the books, magazines, and newspapers. In order to inform, educate, or entertain people, authors from various print media sections write content. They also use magazines to show off the newest fashion trends, and newspapers to report the latest news for those who prefer to learn the latest information in a more traditional manner. Radio, film, and television are all included under broadcast media, while the internet, where websites and social media platforms are found, falls under the category of digital media. So that's mobile mass communication. Let's now move on to what media do and how they affect societies. According to the media theorist Marshall McLuhan, the medium or media is a message. He simply denotes that media has a message always. Media as a form of technology is not a simple bearer of message, but it also shapes and reorient the social behavior of users. And the best example for this is the television. As you can see from the pictures attached, the picture from the left is different from the right. The family who have no television can be seen as happily eating in the dining area and talking with one another. However, the moment they already have television on the right picture, some of the family members are not initiating conversation because their attention are focused on the screen. They are so busy watching on the television, hindering them from talking to each other. This concludes that the television has changed the behavior of the said family. The next example is the smartphone. Before, writing letters on a piece of paper was the only way to communicate or send messages. Additionally, the recipient must wait a longer length of time before receiving the message from the sender. But as communication channels have developed, messages are now transmitted more quickly and easily. Before, communication was limited to writing, which took a month to reach the receiver. However, everyone can now send and receive messages quickly using apps like Messenger. Moreover, new media may expand the reach of communication, but they also dull the user's communicative capabilities. And it is undeniable that new media are neither inherently good nor bad.
Good day, everyone. My topic is about the global village and cultural imperialism. Mark Luhan used his analysis of technology to examine the impact of electronic media. Since he was writing around the 1960s, he mainly analyzed the social changes brought about by television. He also declared that television was turning the world into a global village. By this, he meant that as there are more and more people sat down in front of their television and listen to the same stories, their perception of the world would contract. Why? Because people will then be focused on the world as shown in the television instead of experiencing and embracing the real world. Early scholars assumed that global media had a tendency to homogenize culture, where they argued that as global media spread, people from all over the world would begin to watch, listen to, and read the same things that can be observed in today's Facebook timeline, Twitter timeline, and even Instagram, where we'll be getting some updates about the happenings around the globe. Media globalization is the production, distribution, and consumption of media products on a global scale, facilitating the exchange and diffusion of ideas cross-culturally, while American hegemony is the dominance of America over others. So when the media globalization will be coupled with American hegemony, it would create a form of cultural imperialism whereby American culture and values would overwhelm all others. Cultural imperialism. It refers to the exercise of domination in cultural relationship in which the values, practices, and meanings of a powerful foreign country or culture are imposed upon one or more native cultures. So it is whereby American culture would overwhelm all others. In addition, according to the media critic Herbert Schiller 1976, cultural imperialism refers to the process that also leads to the spread of American capitalist values like consumerism. Next is the cultural globalization. So according to John Tomlinson, cultural globalization is a euphemism for Western cultural imperialism as it promotes homogenized, westernized consumer culture. So a cultural globalization refers to the transmission of ideas, meanings, and values around the world in such a way as to extend and intensify social relations. However, in this lesson, it has been focused on America's cultural imperialism, since John Tomlinson has a similar view as Herbert Schiller, where Tomlinson defined cultural globalization as euphemism. And when we say euphemism, it is to turn a harsh words into a softer one.
And now, I'll discuss about the critiques of cultural imperialism. These are the challenges of audience studies. In year 1980, the significant events are media scholars paid attention to the ways that audiences understand media messages. Media consumers are active participants in the own meaning process, who view text through their own cultural lenses. Field of audience studies. Text refers to content of any medium. In year 1985, Len Ang, an Indonesian cultural critic, presented a detailed analysis of audience viewing experiences. Netherlands watching to American soap opera Dallas. Viewer put, quote, a lot of emotional energy, quote, into the process and experienced pleasure based on how the program resonated with them. And in year 1990, Elihu Katz and Tamar Liebes examined how viewers from distinct cultural communities interpreted Dallas, argued that texts are received differently by varied interpretive communities. People from diverse cultural backgrounds had their own ways of understanding the show. Also, one of the critics of cultural imperialism is renewed strength of regional trends in globalization process. Examples are Asian culture like Hello Kitty, Mario Brothers, Pokemon are now an indelible part of global popular culture. Korean pop, Korean telenovelas, Jollibee.
What I'd like to present to you today is about social media and the creation of cyber ghettos. I'll start off by defining social media and cyber ghetto. Social media refers to the means of interactions among people in which they create, share, and/or exchange information and ideas in virtual communities and networks. While cyber ghetto is from the word cyber, referring to the internet and cyberspace, and ghetto, which is generally used as a term to describe a group of marginalized individuals. So cyber ghetto literally means that it is a place on the internet where a social group is marginalized. The internet and social media are proving that the globalization of culture and ideas can move in different directions. The internet and social media has been a key factor in driving globalization in recent years. The worldwide spread of technology creates vast connections that create new opportunities on a larger scale. For example, many jobs can now be outsourced entirely via the internet. Social media can impact you both positively and negatively. Consideration is it had democratized access. Anyone with an internet connection or a smartphone can use social media platforms for free is one of its benefits. Moreover, these media have enabled users to be consumers and producers of information simultaneously. By way of illustration, activists use Twitter to organize and disseminate information. And in a similar case is the Women's March against US President Trump. It began when someone voiced her opinion with a tweet and then became a national movement. However, social media also have their negative effects. Commentators began referring to the emergence of a splinter net and the phenomena of cyber balkanization, to refer to the various bubbles people place themselves in when they are online. The splinter net is a characterization of the internet as splintering and dividing due to various factors, such as technology, commerce, politics, nationalism, religion, and divergent national interest. While cyber balkanization refers to the division of the internet or the World Wide Web into subgroups with specific interests. where the subgroup members almost always use the internet or the web to communicate or read material that is only of interest to the rest of the subgroup. Segmentation of viewers made them more partisan and close-minded. This segmentation has been used by people in power who are aware that the social media bubbles can produce a herd mentality. To sum up, a lack of coordination and cooperation regarding cybersecurity among nation-states could create cyber ghettos and weaken the security of the global cyber environment. As consumers of media, users must remain vigilant and learn how to distinguish fact from falsehood in a global media landscape.
Today, I'm going to report about the credibility and reliability in terms of media and globalization. Credibility and reliability in terms of media. Credibility is essential in journalism if people are to believe what is reported in the news. Without credibility, news sources become unreliable. Newspaper story and professional journalist versus viral video post. Newspaper story is article or interview that informs the public about current event, concerns, or ideas. The example of this is Pacquiao Mix History. In professional journalist is someone who investigates and gathers information in the form of text, photos, or audio, processes them into a newsworthy form, and distribute it into the public. Professional journalist job is researching, writing, and reporting news stories that we've seen in television. That is the reliable sources. When we say viral video post, like kanang makita nato sa other sources of internet, most likely in social media, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, and etc. nga kanang wala nato nakita nga gipagawa sa television because it is a false information. That is the fake news. Very important to learn what fake news is. Like with so many sources of information online, it has become difficult to make sense of what content is based on fact, half-truths, or lies. As a social media user, very important to determine or identify the fake news and reliable sources through checking the source and evidence. What I've said, the example of reliable and credible sources include peer-reviewed journals, government agencies, research think tanks, and professional organizations. Major newspapers and magazines also provide reliable information to their high publishing standards. Reputable news sources require all content to be fact-checked before publication. In the age of fake news, credible journalism is waging a battle for survival. And why do people fall for fake news? Because of a growing decline in trust of the media and government. People can now create content unburdened by the layers of editing and fact-checking that news organizations adhere to. Content is aggregated into a single news feed, mixing updates from friends and family with identical-looking links to stories across the web. Lower attention spans, fake news stories appeal to our emotions, and proliferation of internet bots. In bias, it have implicit and confirmation. However, it is up to us to recognize those bias and keep them in check. In implicit bias, kanang makita nato sa social media like Facebook, Twitter, and the likes, kanang wala gipagawa sa television. And in confirmation bias, like kanang atong gipang search nga mga viral video posts in social media. In the tendency to search for, interpret, favor, and recall information in a way that confirms one's pre-existing beliefs or hypotheses. In the most general form of fake news has characteristics. Always remember these characteristics like factuality, inaccurate, optimized for sharing, and meant to obscure or distort with emotions, preying in prejudice or bias. So, what is not fake news and types of fake news? So very important to identify what is not fake news. First is satire. Second, honest reporting mistakes. Third is the journalism you don't like. So that's it. In types of fake news, like clickbait, Story often sensational, sponsored content, and the last is fabricated journalism like news stories that are completely made up including fabricated quotes and sources. In media bias, very important to determine bias and look at. So we need to compare headlines and story content, identify politically charged labels, adjectives, and verbs, question the agenda of sources, consider whether the placement of ideas and sources affects the story's impact, how might the story change if told from another perspective, compare photographs and photo captions to the news stories connected with them, and the last is which perspectives does data from polls and statistics seem to support? And that's all.
Good day, ma'am. Good day, classmates. So in this part of the report, I will be tackling about how to practice responsible media consumption. So there are four practices. So firstly is check the source. So it is very important for us to check the source so that we could know, or we could evaluate what is a true information, what is a credible or reliable information, and what is a false information. And also this is very important because it could alter or change our mind of a certain thing. And then secondly and thirdly is check your bias and check the bias of the publication. So these two factors is also very critical because it helps the readers think critically to avoid being influenced about how they feel and about people or things. And also this could make them evaluate or balance about their certain stand or their current stand about this certain topic. And then lastly is think before you share. So this is very important for us because we should also know if what we are sharing is credible or reliable, because we don't want to share information that is very misleading or that is not credible. And also we should practice a good measurement of how to counter things, or we should also know if the information that we are sharing is relevant to the situation. And I think that will be all. Thank you. So in conclusion, different media have diverse effects on globalization processes. Television creates a global monoculture while social media splinter cultures into bubbles. Every technological change creates multiple unintended consequences, and people must collectively discover ways of dealing with social changes responsibly and ethically. And I think that will be all. Hope you all learned something. Good day.